Our condolences to the families that have lost their loved ones through the accidents.
Oh, yes. Anyway, it's Tuesday. I'm usually standing here on It's Tuesday, Matters Biashara, as well as Innovation. The one and only Juland will be joining us a little bit later on Matters Garlic Farming. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Singing with some garlic coming your way.
He's a farmer as well.
Oh, yes.
Interesting.
But before that, we discuss matters gender equality, and we ask you, are we on the right path to achieve gender equality? Stick around for those conversations. But first, the headlines.
Yes, it may be a sad morning, but let's see if the headlines will give us anything better. Housing billions, Ruto has his way. Of course, the president could be smiling today. At least he is getting something.
On the Daily Nation, exposed shame of globe-trotting county officials. And they're listing some counties there.
Why trouble looms for feuding governors and their deputies. That's the Star this morning.
On People Daily, governors raise red flag on health. It matters governors and counties this morning.
Kisu shingoni mwa shababu wa Kenya. Wow, matters terror. Making it to the front page of Taifa Leo.
On Matters Business, how SGR revenues slowed before 50% train fare rise.
All right, we'll be looking at these and others, including the dailies from across the borders later on. Okay, probably it's a time for us to take a look at the papers in Uganda as well. The new vision there, Rao erupts over 280 billion Ugandan shillings veterans pay.
Still on Daily Monitor, Army calls for, still in Uganda, Army calls for calm amid terror threat. Something that Uganda is always, having on. But in Tanzania,
Samia's scorecard. Yes, you wouldn't believe it's been 3 years of her presidency.
Oh, yes.
That's the Citizen this morning.
Oh, yes.
Yes, time now for us to take a look at the weather, and I've seen a highlight here that the weatherman is saying that there could be temperatures as high as 30 degrees Celsius in areas including Nairobi.
Oh, yes.
Is that the truth?
And not only Nairobi, so they say, so this is yesterday, so they're giving a whole weather outlook for today all the way to the 25th, and they tell you, so most parts of the country are likely to be sunny and dry. However, expect rainfall in the central highlands, southwestern Kenya, southeastern lowlands, and the coast, and they have that for you. But then they also tell you, so the high average day temperatures are more than 30 degrees Celsius in Turkana, Samburu, Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Garissa, Tana River. So most parts of the northern as well as the coast region, Mombasa, Kwale, Taita Taveta, Kajiado, Makueni, Kitui, Nairobi, which you are alluding to, Laikipia, Baringo, West Pokot, Bungoma, Kakamega, Busia, Vihiga, and Narok.
That's basically the whole country.
If you actually take a look at the heat map, so how this is basically, so it's quite so giving you maximum temperatures. So the red is above 35 degrees Celsius, but then now the orange-ish is 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, and you can see, cuts across the coast region.
30 degrees and above daytime temperatures is very high. We're used to 23, 24.
Oh, yes.
Even in Nairobi.
So, yes, you can see between 30 all the way to 35 is technically quite more than half of the country. Oh, yes, because the only yellow bit is between 25 to 30, and in the coast, rather the central and some parts of Nyanza as well. That is how the weather is looking like.
And probably give out an advisory for people to stay hydrated.
Oh, yes.
So that's the only way to counter these high temperatures throughout the day.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
What about the traffic today?
The traffic, things are looking quite clear. Let me just take a look at that for you. The traffic, even as you also take a look at what to expect in your diary. So this is how the roads are looking like this morning. A few yellow patches if you're using the Muthaiga, or rather thick road before you actually hit Muthaiga Square. Some yellow patches and also some red patches just before you hit the building that used to house the Jubilee Party headquarters. But other than that, a majority of the roads in Nairobi as well as some parts of Kiambu looking quite clear this morning.
All right.
Oh, yes. And speaking of what to expect as of today, you're saying the president might be smiling So we do expect the president to be this morning sending the affordable housing bill at State House in Nairobi. So the event was scheduled for yesterday, at around 8 a.m., but it was postponed and pushed to today. We'll be following up on that and giving you more details on it. From that, matters resolving the doctor strike stalemate, the Ministry of Labour has scheduled a meeting today in an effort to resolve issues raised by striking doctors. So the meeting will bring together key stakeholders, including the Ministry of Health, the National Treasury, the Council of Governors, among others. So it's a whole multi-stakeholders kind of meeting. Still on matters medical, so the National Assembly's Committee on Implementation will be meeting the ASCC CEO, KRA Commissioner General, Health Principal Secretary, as well as the DPP regarding the Public Investment Committee's report on the special audit on the utilization of the COVID-19 funds. So this meeting was to happen last month, but then it was adjourned to today after some of the aforementioned leaders failed to appear on that committee's meeting. Now, still on matters health, now in Murang'a County. So the Senate Committee on Health is scheduled to meet with the governor of Murang'a County, Irungu Kang'ata. So this is in regards to a statement made by Joe Nyutu, who is a senator on the state of health facilities in that county. And I'll be following up on that. From Murang'a, let me take it to Kakamega, where the county government of Kakamega, in collaboration with the Kakamega County Investment and Development Agency, is set to host the inaugural Kakamega International Investment Conference, which begins today. And Fred, so this is basically seeing Western region counties picking up this whole momentum of investment conferences and just tapping up. And I love the fact that they even call it international, investment conferences. So not only tapping investors from locally, but also, within. We saw this first off with Homa Bay, and there's a whole, turnout. The president was there. So we're going to see how this is also going to shape up Kakamega. Probably Kisii will also try this.
Yes, there are so many opportunities to attract revenue towards the counties, so that we can see whether or not devolution can actually survive with the kind of headlines we're about to look at.
I know. I mean, you're talking about feuds between the governor and the deputy governor. Instead, we should be having investment conferences so that, both of these two leaders can sit down and bring in investors. And finally, on our report or a diary this morning, so we're talking about matters weather. So interestingly today, the World Meteorological Organization will be releasing the State of the Global Climate Report. So this is in preparedness of the World Meteorological Day 2024, which will be on Thursday, the commemoration of it. That is the news diary. But in Today in History, in 2021, we're taking a look at this on the Tanzanian papers. So on a day like today, Tanzania's Samia Suluhu Hassan made history to be sworn in as the country's first female president after the sudden death of John Magufuli.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
It's been 3 years.
3 years.
It just seems like yesterday. Interesting.
And they also highlight her achievements as well as the challenges she's been facing. But then let's get into now the papers.
We kick off with the Standard this morning, and it talks about the housing billions.
We definitely had to wait.
Pardon my urgency in getting into the papers, these headlines. Well, anyway, we need to brighten up this day. But let's start off with the Standard. Housing billions, Ruto has his way. Yes, the president will have his way this morning. He's expected to sign the affordable housing bill into law at State House, Nairobi. I think that's the first order of business this morning. And the headline they've put there, they're saying raiding pockets. President today assents to bill that will see him collect 90 billion shillings more in revenue to construct affordable houses. The journey has been steep, but the government will have the last laugh unless someone pulls a first one yet again. The story is on page 6. And of course, the 1.5% housing levy. Once this is assented into law, that deduction begins at the end of this month.
What are the chances of even anyone pulling a first one, right?
Well, there are indications that someone could go to court, you never know. But whether or not they'll get a favorable court order probably seeking to stop this, I don't know.
Chances are very slim.
Things have really changed.
Yes.
Yes. And it would appear, and we were discussing this yesterday, the president could be having his way and having the last laugh anyway. Still on the front page of the Standard, as Nahomicha doctors haggle, patients are dying. It is the 5th day of the doctors' strike. Yesterday they had a meeting that ended in a stalemate, no deal yet on the demands by doctors for employment or deployment of intern doctors, as well as other issues. It is now payback time for Raila as his stars align. People are just talking about Raila and his bid for the AU, and the man himself has gone really quiet about everything else. ODM leader Raila Odinga has been a key power broker for years, but he's finally on the verge of sitting at the table and making key decisions. He just won't be in Kenya. He'll be somewhere in Addis Ababa. Still on the front page of the Standard, matters education uncertainty as ministry chops school money. And this speaks to a lot of issues happening in the education sector. It is only 3 months to the end of the financial year. They are yet to receive more than 25, I think they've only received 25% of their budgetary allocation this year so far. So you can imagine what's happening in schools, and we'll be discussing that later on. Let's go back to politics. Joho says he's the best place to run ODM. Matters succession on Raila Odinga's exit. The former Mombasa governor yesterday said he had sacrificed his life for the party leader Raila Odinga and therefore deserved the position. That story is on page 7. I don't know if all ODM members agree with that assertion. More highlights on the top strip of the Standard this morning. They speak of Uhuru Kin making 15th attempt to reclaim a 3 billion shilling land. And you know, some of the figures on the front pages sometimes just...
They even scare you.
Wow. 3 billion shilling land. It's a 430-something acres of land. Elsewhere, hospitals ask NHIF holders to pay cash. Matters health, and we'll be looking at this health crisis as well. Business ups a bank to pay out 7 billion shillings as dividends. And...
now you can prepare your throat for this.
You know, sometimes papers pay attention to some stories that are not really urgent, but let's just flip the paper and take a look at the highlights. And they talk about Guardiola focusing on final against Arsenal. These are top two teams in the Premier League so far. Manchester City are still in the running to pick up 2 trophies at Wembley this season, but the manager Pep Guardiola says all his focus is on their Premier League clash with title rivals Arsenal at the end of the month. That is what matters. But then they've given prominence to a story that doesn't really matter. But I'll do this for you.
The Englishmen say, save the last for the best.
It's okay.
Save
I'll
the
do
last
this.
for the best.
They say, glory, glory, Man United.
Oh, yes.
They beat Liverpool 4-3 to ease the pressure on Ten Hag. Manchester United hope 3-League Cup win over Liverpool will turn season around. We have to wait and see. But yeah, glory, glory, Man United.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
And that's the Standard this morning.
Oh, yes. Our director Kevo was nearly shedding tears on Sunday because he's a Liverpool fan. Anyway, let's cross over to the Daily Nation and tell you what is happening. And now we start with the whole focus of matters counties and what is happening in different counties. So they say, exposed, shame of globe-trotting county officials. So they tell you 13 counties that spent more on travel than they were generating in own source revenue. So it's a whole damning verdict that on the 30th of October last year, 2 7-member delegations from Kitui Assembly flew to Singapore to attend workshops and spent over, get this, 22 million Kenyan shillings for the 5-day junket. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. As a controller of budget report for the final half of last year found some counties were splashing more on travel than they were generating in on-source revenue on pages 6 and 7. So they give a whole differentiation of the total travel expenses in million Kenyan shillings and the on-source revenue in million Kenyan shillings. So Bomet uses 128, but then its on-source revenue is 67. That's even way past half of what it has. Busia 165, 133, Kericho 257 versus 161. Let me take a look at. So Kitui, that has been focused on, the travel is 323, while on-source revenue is about 70 million. Wow. Another quite worrying one here is, let me see, Nandi 204 versus 136. And the final one, let me see, Tenerife 160 versus 30. Matters counties there. On the bottom, doctors' strike still on as stocks collapse. There are more on the back page. And pictures there, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Akumicha. So they say talks between the government and doctors collapsed yesterday as the strike called by KMPDU enters its 5th day today. So the court had on Friday directed the two parties to have a settlement to alleviate suffering of thousands of patients across the country. Matters education, secondary schools to get cash next week. And this is just a juxtaposition on what was on the Standard. Matters chopping off of the money. The highlights on this paper, on the left, content creators.
They say good
news for content creators, rather. So President William Ruto sharing a light moment with comedian Stephen Okaka. He's a Rastafarian, or a Rastaman. Bingi, yes. Content creators in Kenya will earn money from postings on Meta platforms, including Facebook and Instagram, from June this year, following a deal between the government and Facebook. And that is the front page of this paper. As you flip the back page, more county news on this paper. On the left strip of the back page, county is yet to get 179 billion Kenyan shillings equitable revenue share. And that story matters talks between state. Doctors' dollars track enters day 5. Well, and the very top scroll matters sports. Anyango's rise in athletics. They say Nyakach star Immaculate Anyango's immaculate rise in distance running breaks stereotypes as she targets global glory. And that is the Daily Nation for you.
Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, kisu shingoni mwa Shabab wa Kenya. Ofichuzi waanika jinsi magaidi kutoka Kenya wanavyomalizwa Somalia kwa kushukiwa kuwa majasusi wa polisi. Aha. Masuala ya ugaidi pale, siku zuri kwa vijana wanaodanganyika kujiunga na Al-Shabaab. Na musikize hii, kwani wengi wao hupitia mateso na hata kuuawa kila wanaposhukiwa kufichua siri zao kwa vyombo vya usalama. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili, na ni onyo kali kwa wale vijana wa Kenya wanaodhania kwamba mambo ni mazuri wakijiunga na Al-Shabaab. Habari zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Walilia ibada ya miti mitakatifu. Wakazi wa Pokot wataka tambiko la Mugumo ulioanguka mwaka wa 2022. Masuala ya spoti, Man United na Coventry City versus Blues. Kipute cha kombe la FA kitaibua fataki katika hatua ya nusu finali. Na kwingineko, Murkomen amshtaki Cherargei. Waziri ampeleka seneta mahakamani kwa kumhusisha na ufisadi. Pale juu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, ziara gali katika kaunti ni habari iliyopewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo. Hapa wanasema yafichua kuwa kaunti hutumia pesa nyingi kwa safari kuliko kodi zinazokusanya. Habari yenyewe kwenye ukurasa wa 4 wa gazeti hili. Na la mwisho, madaktari wakaa ngumu, wakataa katakata mazungumzo yoyote na serikali kwa lengo la kuacha mgomo. Mgomo wa madaktari waendelea kwa siku ya 6 hii leo. Hizo ndizo habari zilizopewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Right, just to pick up from the whole Matters Doctors and Matters Health. On People Daily, they say governors raise red flag on health. Matters governance, so counties warn of crisis due to the failure to renew contracts of essential service providers of specialized care hospital equipment as talks with striking doctors stacked on the wrong footing. Just to remind you as well, the Senate Health Committee will be meeting with Murang'a Governor Irungo Kang'ata, still on matters the state of health in that county. The highlights on this paper, on the bottom, they have, let's say, Eid Mubarak, Tesi Musalia, who's the spouse of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, seated at the center. During the Northern Kenya Women Leaders Caucus, we led an iftar dinner Sunday evening. On the top scroll, end of the road for dreaded drug lorry.